Grandma.
I call my grandmother Gia.
I call her Suki.
Grandma. Yeah, grandma.
Grandma.
Nana. I think she thinks that like Granny is like kind of cute. Like I think that's her like Jenny from the Block like upgrade on Grandma.
So only my sister and I call my grandmother Gia.
It was like a Suki now, you know, so she's Suki to everybody.
Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart.
I haven't really heard her talk much about her life and her experience.
She instilled like mannerisms and being very poised and always putting your best foot forward.
Because my grandmother is really sure about who she is. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grandmother Project presents Pearls and Pocketbooks, our live monthly interactive webinar experience featuring Black grandmothers and granddaughters discussing love, life, and everything in between. I am Melanie Brazil, and I am the creator of the Grandmother Project, an original 9-episode docuseries and archive, which you just watched the trailer for, now available on YouTube. Simply go to youtube.com/The Grandmother Project, and of course, click subscribe. The link will be in the chat. So last month, we kicked off season 3 with an amazing mother-daughter duo, doulas and founders of Chicago Birthworks Collective, Tony Taylor and Tayo and Bandy. This amazing mother-daughter duo empowered us with their knowledge of helping women through their pregnancy journeys and postpartum journeys. And we had a great conversation about how they balance all of their identities, from grandmother to daughter to doula to business partners. So if you missed that episode, be sure to check it out on YouTube. Tonight, or this morning, if you're watching from Sydney, Australia, we are thrilled to bring you this episode in partnership with Sydney Theatre Company as they celebrate their upcoming production of August Wilson's Fences, the first ever in Australia. We thank Sydney Theatre Company for including us in their celebration of this American classic. As you all know, the Grandmother Project is about celebrating the experiences, lessons, and knowledge of everyday Black grandmothers, much in the way that August Wilson gave a voice to everyday Black experiences. All but one of his American Century Cycle plays take place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city that continues to boast a vibrant African-American community. So this evening, we are chatting with Pittsburgh-born grandmother Gloria Hannon and her daughter Juanita Hamlin, along with a special guest appearance as we journey back in time to the Hill District in 1957. It is an honor to present to you Pearls and Pocketbooks, episode 16, Black and Gold. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to this evening's guests. Grandmother Gloria Hannon was born in 1930 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the Hill District. Her parents, Sam and Flora, raised a family of 4 kids there and were one of the first families that resided proudly in the new Waring Court Project apartments. She attended Shinley High School, where she had a diverse group of friends. Later, she met her husband, Thomas Hannon, and the two were married at Central Baptist Church, an anchor for the Black community. The family moved to Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania in 1962, where they were one of only 2 Black families in the neighborhood. Gloria and her friends started the first Black Girl Scout troop in town, assisted with the creation of a Boy Scout troop, and participated in the PTA. In 2000, when Gloria moved from Wilkinsburg to the Midwest, she was the first person to sell her home there in 32 years. In December of 2022, she celebrated her 92nd birthday. She is the mother of 2 children and a grandmother of 4. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Pittsburgh's own Gloria Hannon. Hi, Miss Hannon. You all are on mute. Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining me, Miss Hannon. And hi, Juanita.
Thanks
Well,
for having us. We're thrilled to be here today.
I am so
Good
thrilled to be chatting
experience.
with you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and introduce our next guest, who happens to be you, Juanita. So we'll get our next guest introduced. Our next guest, Juanita Hamlin, was born in 1957 at Montefiore Hospital in Pittsburgh. Her doctor was the renowned Dr. William Miller, an African-American doctor who recently received privileges to practice at that hospital. Juanita became a Girl Scout under her mother's leadership. Against the backdrop of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On and James Brown's Say It Loud, Juanita often reflected on how much she benefited from the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, and integrated education that wasn't afforded to her parents. She attended Clarion University, where she earned a degree in speech pathology and audiology. She later earned her master's in communication disorders. She has practiced in the field for 44 years and plans to retire in the upcoming year. She's been married to her husband, Gene, for 43 years and has two daughters, Tamara and Brittany, two sons in love, Christopher and Joshua, and a dog, Baxter. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Juanita Hamlin. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
I am so thrilled to chat with you all. And I see you're wearing your black and gold. Uh-oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Pittsburgh proud, always.
Say it loud.
That's right, Pittsburgh proud. Well, I'm so thrilled. As you all know, this episode is all about celebrating Pittsburgh, which, of course, as you all know, is the setting for many of August Wilson's plays. So, Miss Hannon, we're going to start with you. You are Pittsburgh born and raised.
Yes.
What are some of your earliest memories of growing up in Pittsburgh?
Well, we had a lot to do, and we had a lot of people, kids around us, and we saw a lot of Pittsburgh. And my father, a lot of things my mother and father didn't know because we didn't tell them, like the incline, because the horses came on the incline to go to the fruit yards. And they said, don't get on that incline because they have horses. And that's
Yes.
what we look for. And there's my family, my mother's mother, her two sisters,
Your baby brother.
and the baby brother on that end. And my younger sister's on this end with
on the
Claire.
right, in the
Yeah, and me with the pigtails. Yeah, that's in Terrace Village too.
That's precious.
It is.
So, we've got some more slides here. Yeah, so tell us about these slides.
Oh, well, that's my youngest sister. They painted that ribbon on her hair because she didn't have one. And Claire Trower and me and my brother. We had like a huckster that came up the incline. And this man had this pony, cost you $0.25, and you get your picture taken. So that's my brother, the young cowboy.
Oh my goodness.
And that's baby Junior sitting with the picture of us, 3 girls.
I see at the bottom there. So those pictures are really precious because we're talking 1937, 1942. Tell me about growing up in Pittsburgh. You were one of the first residents of a place called Waring Court. What was it like living in the Waring Court projects at that time?
Well, it was a project, but not like projects today. They were very particular. You had, each family was 3 stories, and each family had a month. You had to take care of the garbage court. And they had black drums, and you didn't have plastic bags. So you had to wrap it and put it in the drums. And the garbage men came and took it away, and they would turn them upside down. And in the bottom floor from our first floor, that was the storage for the brooms and mops and everything you need to clean up.
No graffiti.
So no graffiti. And each family had, when the garbage men left these big drums turned upside down, you then had to go hose them out. And everybody's garbage had to be wrapped in newspaper. You just didn't dump it. And then you check your halls, the first, second, and third floor, and make sure nobody dropped any garbage, coffee grinds or anything. Because I followed the kid all the way up to the third floor. You have to clean this up. Coffee grinds all over. And a whole month, you had to keep the windows and the walls cleaned. And even the light bulbs in the ceiling, you just tell the manager, we need some light bulbs up on the third floor. And they gave you garden tools, and we could do flowers around under your living room windows, and there were benches there, and you planted flowers, and they cut the grass and the hedges. So
It's beautiful. Right?
No, it wasn't like you see now.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a lot of pride. I mean, that this was.
Oh, yes. And we had a big playground. And then I guess about 3 blocks away was the Kennard Field. And all the neighborhoods, football and baseball teams had their games there.
Wow.
Except the basketball, they practice in our church, you know. But all the neighborhood, you didn't see them come and tearing. And there was a swimming pool. So that's what we learned how to swim. Gave my daddy a hard attack because he didn't want to see us doing that.
You know, that's actually a great segue because, you know, in Fences, Troy Maxson is like the matriarch of the family. If you all saw the movie, that character was played by Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes a lot of pride in his ability to provide. And you have mentioned in earlier conversations about your dad and the pride that he had in providing for your family. Can you tell us about your dad and the types of jobs that he had?
Especially during the Depression.
Oh, yes. He said he never was out of work during Depression. He always lucky enough to have a job. And one of his jobs, he happened to be the garbage man in our neighborhood. And so we said, look, and they had a big burlap sack that they dumped all the rubbish in and tied it in a knot and threw it on the truck.
Tell him where he retired from.
I think,
The steel mill, right?
on the steel mills, before that, during the war, he worked in Dravo's shipyard. So, and that was cold and, it was
Tell us about
hard
that.
work. Well, he said it was really cold because you were like scaffolding on outside and you were scouring out the ships on the outside. And and he was embarrassed when he found out that in the group that he was with, there was a lady. They didn't even know she was even there. So.
We worked one day in a coal mine.
Oh, and the coal mine before I was born. He worked one day in the coal mine and he said he prayed going down in that dark hole with just a little light on your forehead, hat, and he prayed the whole time. And he said, God, if you get me up out of this hole, you won't have me ever to worry about. And when they roll up in the elevator, he said he really actually laid down and kissed the ground. Went to management office and he said, I quit. And they said, well, you have a check for the day. He says, keep it. I don't even want the money. I just want out of here.
I know that's right. That sounds like that must have been treacherous. You know, I mean, we take it for granted the types of jobs. I mean, people really worked hard. And, you know, it's such a coincidence because Troy in the play in Fences also collects rubbish.
Did.
And one of the things, and so you talked about these burlap sacks, and I'm sure they had uniforms. You know, would he come home? Would he have sort of
Oh no, they had a big laundromat on Center Avenue, one of the main streets, and all the rubbish men had big sacks that they put this dirty underwear outfits in. You took a shower, but you wore your clean underwear and socks, and you brought it home. And then your mother cleaned your underwear. It was white. cleaned your underwear. And that was something too, because when my sister was dating, one time I strung a line up from the living room to the kitchen and hung Daddy's underwear. When she opened the door, his underwear,
Oh, goodness gracious.
we thought that was hilarious.
Okay.
But there was prejudice there, a lot of prejudice, because they had like 4 black men on the truck, and only one white guy who drove the truck. And he never got out. He just drove it so that they get in and empty it and all,
Very similar to fences.
It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
similar. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's almost eerie how similar it is, And so, hearing about your dad, I mean, you're painting such a colorful picture, and it just and growing up and wearing court. Now, what was it like for you as a teenager? So you talked about your sister when she was dating. What kind of things did you like to do when you were a teenager? What kind of things did you do for fun? Tell us about that.
Well, the main thing I liked, we had skating on the street, and then we had friends of mine, and I was like 11th grade. We had a club, and Joe Westray was a well-known jazz musician, and he owned a bar and a dance floor in our East Liberty. And he let us use his dance floor on Saturday and Sundays, free, no charge. And we could practice. Oh, I would even bring my skates down.
Oh, that's okay.
And I still have my skates.
Do you really?
Yeah.
She does very good shape too.
Oh, that's precious.
Yeah,
maybe we can get them down later on and
Yeah.
show
Oh,
everybody.
they're here in the room. But anyway, that was a prejudice thing too, because I found out 11th grade in Pittsburgh Recreation Center, people of color could only go in on Thursday. And when we found that out, and we hadn't used it during the week because we went to school, who could go skating on Thursday? You had to go to school. And we found that out. We raised a lot of sand, and then the older people, the adults, they didn't know about it. So they got every group, the NAACP and you name it, the state representatives, and we called everybody. And they finally opened it up because we said, we'll shut down the whole recreation center. And they finally opened it up. You could come any day of the week. Then my skating club was about 12 of us. And I had books. We didn't just skate. We learned to do waltzes, folks, we had instructions. So we went to skate and dance.
She's a very good skater. She taught me to skate and her granddaughters how to skate. And that was a big part of our fun, was skating.
And even when I moved here, I was babysitting a little girl. She was like, she's 22 now, but I got about 7, and she asked her grandparents, because I babysat when she was 9 months, and she wanted to go to a birthday party at a skating rink here in Maryville. And I don't know where the rink was, but anyway, her grandmother says, I can't skate. I said, I love it. My skates are upstairs. I'll go. And we had a grand time. And after that, she wanted to know, Saturday I didn't work, babysitting. She said, can you take me and a couple of girlfriends to skate? Sure. But we learned the outfits. The men in our group wore brown trousers and black and white shirts, and we wore fingertip skirts. And that's when the leggings, colored leggings came in, and we wore them also.
I wish I could have seen that. I mean, that had to have been something.
After I moved here, I had neighbors calling me, are you going to sell your skates? We'll buy your skates. I said, I use my skates.
That's
and
right.
I brought them down. Juanita told me, and I brought my skates down. They're still here.
I love it. I love it.
That was the main thing. Main thing is swimming in the recreation halls in Terrace Village 1 and Terrace Village 2.
I see.
Yeah,
and so now, in the playgrounds.
Oh, yes. We had playgrounds all in both villages, and the walking distance. And my dad would rent bicycles, so he couldn't buy 3 girls bicycles, but we rode bicycles all over the city.
What a childhood.
Hey. Yeah, so we had a lot of fun. Too much.
So here you are in the Hill District, and I know that, you know, there's downtown Pittsburgh, there's shopping. Would you get together? Did you ever get together with your friends and go out to eat or go to any of these things downtown where you would shop and dress up? What was that sort of like?
Well, you didn't go downtown until you had gloves on and a hat like you go to church. So you went downtown, nobody came. Of course, at those years, girls didn't wear pants or blue jeans or shorts, but you dressed up, put your gloves on when you went downtown. We had 3 big department stores, and the one was named Kaufman's, and on the corner, it was shaped like a triangle, a big clock at the roof. So everybody knew, I'll meet you under Kaufman's clock.
Yeah, to this day, people meet at that clock in downtown Pittsburgh, don't they?
They sure do. Yeah, you just say, I'll meet you. But that was prejudice too, because even when I was a teenager, I had, like I said, I sat at lunchtime with a diverse group of girls. We brought our own lunches and trade lunches. Jewish people had their holidays, and over holidays, we ate her matzi, and the Mexican girls, we changed, you know, but we had little jobs after babysitting, whatnot. And once a month, we would all meet, 3 or 4, and have lunch downtown with your gloves and all. But they were very prejudiced too. They didn't want people of color
At the counters.
at the counters.
Right.
Yeah, and we'd stay there, and the men were there at lunchtime, and they'd see us sitting there, and then nobody even waited and asked, can we help you? And they would finally say, are you being waited on? I said, don't think so. Came in one day by myself and had lunch. The girl never waited on me. She asked me, what did I want? And I showed her banana split. And I said, do you make those? That's what I would like, a banana split. Well, there was a Caucasian man sitting next to me, and when she brought it, she just slid it around the table, and juice, we jumped back. We said, what is this? She had a dish with 2 vanilla scoops and fruit cocktail, and the juice went all over. We just jumped back. And he said, what is that slop? You better be glad I didn't get anything on me. Well, and I asked the manager, and he came and got rid of her and made her clean it up. And I said, I asked for a banana split. And he said, she asked for one of that picture up here.
It didn't look like the picture at
No.
all.
And he said, there's not even a banana.
Wow.
And that happened so many occasions.
And now, what years are we kind of talking about here to give people context that might be?
Well, when I graduated, and my girlfriends
From Shinley High
School. So we went down there downtown just to, you know, socialize. We had our gloves on and have lunch. And finally I said, well, Shirley, she was my little Jewish girlfriend, walked to school back, back home from school. And we left. And the little Irish girl, she had red hair, pretty red hair. And we said, well, we'll see you at school.
So that was like in the 40s.
49.
49. Wow. And if you think about it, that's not even that long ago, you know?
No,
I mean,
not really.
it's not that long ago. So, okay, so wow, such a vibrant picture. And I hope you all out there are enjoying this as much as I am. I mean, you are really painting the picture for us, Ms. Hannon. So now I want to talk about Mr. Hannon, because you got married. And tell us a little bit. Tell us about how you met and when you got married.
Oh, we never met. We just knew each other because his family and my family, we went to Central Baptist Church.
Yeah, that's Central Baptist Church I was telling you about. Everyone, that was a mainstay, a very important church to the Black community at that time. On the corner of Center and Kirkpatrick. And today it's still there. And a lot of things in our family. What, you got married in Central Baptist Church?
Oh, yes.
Well, baptized.
We've got a picture of that actually that we like to get of you and Mr. Hannon. Look at that.
Yes.
Central Baptist Church. Yes, that's them.
1954.
Yeah, and they always said, where'd you meet your husband? I said, didn't meet him. He was always there.
He was always around.
And he used to say, I was in a youth group in charge of one. So when you had Sunday school, and my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, his mother, we were all there. When they remodeled and put a balcony, we saved seats for my mother and father and bringing my little brother. And we had to go sit in the balcony because then you had a cousin who had a little extra spending money, and we talked to her about buying caramels, and we'd sit in church upstairs and take the papers out so she wouldn't hear us rattle the papers while we ate the caramels. And you sit with your friends and had a good time, but mothers and fathers would look up that balcony, you better straighten up. But like I said, we had a big basement and all the activities, you had tables and chairs, but when the basketball team practiced, they had a wooden floor to cover the floor. And my group and everybody else's group had to check with Tom, and his committee was in charge of the schedules. And Jean, Juanita's husband's grandfather, his family was at a church too. His three sisters with me and her three sisters, and so we knew each other.
Our families are all intertwined in Central Baptist Church, so it was a central hub. And I guess to this day, but one funny thing about it is that balcony has always been there.
Yes. And then when you had the basketball games, you had to contact Tom Hannon to see if the schedule was clear. And he and I used to get into it. And Jean's grandfather was in charge. He was a superintendent of the Sunday school. So I had to go see Mr. Blakey, and he said, go see Tom Hannon, put it on the schedule. And I said, he better put it on schedule. I'm just going to hand it to him and put it on, and don't do anything Sunday after they've played basketball because it was too stinky in the church after the basketball games.
After they did those games, you needed to let air out.
No games on the Saturdays that we have mother's tea and whatnot. And so it was a lot of activity all over the hill because we had the largest gym that they could play and practice basketball. And the two swimming pools were Terrace Village was on one end, and Terrace 1 and Terrace Village 2, where I lived, was on the other side. And a friend of ours said, I want to introduce you to somebody. You might know him. He'd be a nice guy to know you. And he came up and he said, and Tom Hannon. And I said, well, where is he? He said, introduce me to Tom. I know Tom.
I know him.
We were two neighborhood schools, so we didn't go to school together. Even Gene, he didn't go to school until what, you were in the band or something, I met Gene. Yeah, and in fact, when Gene asked her to go to the prom, I said, well, I was working with the city county and in the records, and I had to pull his records off.
Goodness
gracious. His mother's pedigree. And he still says, if I had known that, I would have called the authorities on you. And I had to check his pedigree.
You had to run him through the system. So you talked about life on the hill, and you talked about how, these families were connected. It sounds like, Pittsburgh back then on the hill, people were connected. You've got these hubs, you've got Central Baptist, and your family also was connected to a business called Trower's Cleaners.
Oh,
and we got pictures of that. Tell us a little bit about this. So we've got these Black businesses. I think that's awesome. We're gonna put up that slide next.
You have information on that.
Trower's Cleaners. My mother's sister, Claire, married William Trower. And that was a very big business that was three different stores. The largest and plant was located in the Hill District on Wiley Avenue. That's up in the right-hand corner. And as I had mentioned, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, there was a real stronghold of trying to protect businesses that were
Police.
that were prominent in the Hill. The state police came. It was the night Martin Luther King died in '69. It was a very volatile night, week. And Trower's Cleaners, they wanted to protect it because that main plant had a lot of chemicals. And it was a vibrant business in the Hill at that time.
The state police were all surrounding everything. And I was a guard then, civic police.
Oh, she was on the civic police. She has to share that. She was a civic police guard during the time.
They sounded siren.
They had a siren and they had little hats.
Oh yeah,
they had like
armbands,
white hats and armbands. At that time, really tried to protect a lot of businesses in the Hill.
And during the war, we had the air raid shelter down in
Central Baptist.
No, not Central Baptist, but at in Maryville, and there's their county building.
Oh, wow. So this is just, that's so vibrant that you had that. And you kind of talked about, Juanita being in the 60s when these things, when King was assassinated, a lot of the neighborhoods kind of, went up in flames because people had this, there were so many emotions, I imagine, Miss Hannon, can you get a little bit closer to Juanita? We want to make sure that the camera can see your beautiful face. Yes, that's one of our questions in the Q&A that people are asking for you. That's perfect. That is wonderful.
My daughters always hit me because I talk too much. But I
I
know a lot.
She knows a lot. She's got a lot of stories.
Yeah, that's what my grandchildren would say. Even my youngest one, when I stayed in their house. Come to here, and his father, my brother, would say, don't wake Granny up. I'm not waking her up. I just wanted to hear some more stories.
Well, this is all about stories. So this is your moment. We want to hear all the stories. So Juanita, now, let's chat with you a little bit because you were actually born in 1957, which is
the whole world knows.
That's right. Oh goodness. Well, y'all don't spread it too far. It's out there, but listen, that's the year that this
no shame here.
That's right. And we've got this wonderful picture of you and your dad holding you when you were a baby, which was taken around 1957.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. That was my dad's first Father's Day. And that picture was taken on Francis Street in the Hill District, which was near
Pittsfield House.
Pittsfield House. And
Trash cleaner.
The baby picture was taken by a photographer that was up and coming in the Hill District at that time, Johnson's Photography. So as Black businesses were, trying to come about, we had the cleaners, we had funeral home, photography, and of course, dear Dr. Miller, who was down there on Center Avenue practicing medicine. He was everyone's doctor.
So tell us about that, because you have sort of a legendary birth story about when you were born. So tell us about that unique story.
Well, from what I heard, and I've been told.
Exactly.
When the year I was born, I needed an incubator.
3 pounds.
I weighed 3 pounds, and incubators weren't real popular. And you think about neonatal hospital systems now, but I was fortunate enough to get an incubator. Interestingly, Dr. Miller, at the time, he had just really gotten privileges to even practice at this hospital. So I got an incubator, right, Mom? But then they said
only one hospital, children's hospital, had 5.
They had 5.
In Pittsburgh.
5 incubators, and now
they only had 3 at that time. So they gave Montefiore Hospital 1.
And so I was born in Montefiore Hospital. And interestingly, Black babies are beautiful. not to toot my own horn. And because of the fact that, I was an intriguing Black baby with a head full of hair and hazel eyes, I got that incubator. So I'm here today, God's will. And unfortunately, my mother told me that I stayed in the hospital for a while, and my parents weren't allowed to go in the nursery.
No.
White families were able to go
Oh,
in.
yeah, we had to stay and look out the window, show your tag, and then they bring the baby to you. But the white people, they got gowns and masks, and their babies were really bad because they were incubated, not the incubators, not the incubators, but the bassinets.
Mhm.
They had to put gloves on to touch it. But Juanita was just laying in the incubator because she needed the heat. And I kept looking at these parents and I said, we're parents too. I'd like to see my baby. Never. I stayed there 14 days. And one family came, they had little elementary kids. They were laughing and talking, trying to find small enough gowns so these children could come in. And I said, those kids won't come in that nursery with my baby in there. And when it was light colored, they didn't know whether she was black or white anyway. But we never, 14 days, they never let us come in that hospital. And we called Dr. Miller and nothing happened. 14 days until she was ready to come home. Never, wow. And so it was 15 days before I even got to touch my own baby. You know, because of the prejudice and stuff going on.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I'm so glad you're here today, though, Ms. Juanita. And Dr. Miller, you know, was a legendary doctor in that area, and so just really want to acknowledge that, and that was really amazing that there were Black doctors, and even what it must have taken for him to get privileges at that distinguished hospital was probably a lot.
And even taking her back for 6 weeks checkup, room full of mothers and new babies, they let me wait till the last. I was the last mother to look. And then I told my husband about it, and I said I had to wait till they waited on everybody. Nobody left. Another mother was in their room but me. And he wasn't friendly at all, you know, the doctor. And the nurses were, you know, they were just, you know, just trying to do what they had to do.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dr. Miller and he told me the circumstances. And I said, and they want to make an appointment for her for a 6 months checkup. And I said, I don't make nothing with him. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm sure that experience was not always the most pleasant.
You wait 15 days to touch your own child?
And to think of the hub that the Pittsburgh medical system is today. It's, you know, world renowned.
It's world renowned, but look at that. Look at how far it had to come, you know? So back to Mr. Hannon, because you all eventually moved from Pittsburgh, but you don't go far. You moved to Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania.
Right, Maryville.
Wilkinsburg. So we got Mr. Hannon here. Tell us a little bit about that, because he worked for the post office. I think you told me in the earlier conversation. We're going to put up a picture here of Mr. Hannon. Tell us about Mr. Hannon here, and tell us about this photo.
Oh boy.
He was really active in the VA.
No, the American Legion.
American Legions. Yeah, with the vets.
Post 913. He was the commander.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of, you know, that was also a central place. The American Legion he belonged to was in Homewood, which was a town next door to Wilkinsburg. So a lot of fun times for families with picnics and softball games, softball teams. And parades. He took a lot of pride in being in parades. And, you know, when you think of today and how parades are, I mean, we used to really have good parades.
And things like every Saturday.
Yeah, a parade every time for anything.
And the American Elks. My sister joined them for a major
Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh had, you know, wonderful parades. And when you think of all, you know, it's a frightening time right now just to even go to a parade.
Right. Let's see if we can, let's get that picture back up again. I think that's so interesting that you said that he took a lot of pride in being in parades.
Yes, he was a veteran. He served in the Korean War. And yeah, he really loved the American Legion. Boy, that was American Legion was everything.
And she liked it too because 4th of July, they had big celebration. And he had the sound system. He brought it back to our house. So
Oh yeah, we had the greatest parties with sound systems.
Wow.
And 45, you know, records, 45s.
Yes. You know, that's a perfect segue because,
Uh-huh.
you know, of course, this conversation and you all are really, it's just amazing because you're really illuminating August Wilson's Pittsburgh because you've lived it. You were there, and there's so many similarities. So in Fences, you've got Troy and you've got his friend Bono, and they hang out at this bar called Taylor's, right? And it's a gathering place. Your family actually owned a spot. Your family was affiliated with a bar that they owned called the Thomas Lounge. Can you tell us about the Thomas Lounge?
Oh goodness. Thomas Lounge was located in Homewood next to Wilkinsburg, and it was owned by my aunt and uncle. And their last name happened to be Thomas, but my father's name was Thomas Hannon. My father, he did a lot of bookkeeping for them and a lot of bartending. And boy, you have to have my brother to tell the stories because my father had numerous friends that were at the bar. He worked really, really hard. He worked from 8 to 2 at the bar, then from 3 to 11 at the post office, and the bar
4 to 12. I was
4 to 12 at the post office. So he had a lot of friends, and my brother and I, we always laughed because none of my father's friends had real names. Their names were Snooty and Geronimo and Boogaloo.
We would take time out on Saturday to go downtown and have big fish lunch. And Tom knew so many people. He said, "Hey, Boogaloo." And Brian even asked, "Daddy, did your friend have real names?"
None of his friends had real names. Kemosabe, Geronimo, Boogaloo. And they were just all so fond of him.
Yes, because they had with the bar his sister owned, and they had another name. What was that bar before they came? They had to wait 5 years before they turned to Thomas Lounge. Anyway, he would let Juanita and Brian come down on Friday, and because they sold fish dinners. And Friday, even the grandmother would come down and get her fish dinner.
The funny thing about, and I know my brother Brian would share the same memories. You know, you can't have kids at the bar or in a bar, but when I eat Wise potato chips in a pop, that's what reminds me of being in the bar and hanging out.
Couldn't sit at the bar. You
couldn't
sit.
We could sit in the booths because they sold food
and the records,
and they played. We got all the records off of the jukebox. Remember, there was a jukebox in there, so we got all the records when they changed.
Marked them with a quarter, with nail polish on the quarters. So when he changed, he gave all those marked to you and Brian, and you played whatever you liked. The quarter came off the jukebox, and you saved all your 45s.
I do have all those. I still have all those 45s.
I wouldn't let him play on mine because I said, no, I have a diamond needle, and they took them off the jukebox because they were worn out. You're not
So
gonna
you got the retired record.
Yeah, but that was a fun place, and I tell you that between the bar and the post office, that's what put my brother and I through college.
Well, we've got a fly to the Thomas Lounge. Let's get a picture of that. We've got a picture of the legendary Thomas Lounge. Look at that.
Oh, there it is on the corner.
Oh, look at that.
Right. When they had the riots, they burned down. They had 3 bars down there, and they burned down one. And my husband, he was a security guard, and he had to go with his hat to a neighborhood to keep the rioters from Pittsburgh coming into Wilkinsburg. And our street was only 14 houses. And we ladies talked, and we said, our husbands are over there
guarding other areas.
Yeah, and we got nobody here. And they would call me, Miss Tom, the bar is such and such. It was 3 bars there. It was on fire. And I said, well, let me know.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
how's it going on? Because Tom's not here. But they didn't touch the 2 bars that were on that street. But they did burn down one.
Yeah, it was a popular little corner.
And this was during the riots in the 60s.
Yes.
This is also when King was assassinated. So that's what,
Yes.
like 68, I think.
Yes,
Um,
69. And,
Wow.
you know, the area just really had to rebuild. Today, it's
Mhm.
regentrification, the area in Homewood and Wilkinsburg, they're being rebuilt
Oh, yeah.
from, you know, days that in the past where they had this rioting and business.
Yeah.
And the bar that got burned down, they made a playground out of it.
And they built
Okay.
new homes.
Yeah, and the church was
So the
revamped.
community changed a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. And
Mhm.
so, you know, Ms. Hannon, you actually became sort of a backbone in Wilkinsburg. And, you know, it reminds me of Rose and Fences, where Rose sort of plays this backbone role where she is really the glue. And you did a lot of things when you were in Wilkinsburg. You kind of had this fresh slate and you were responsible for starting a lot of things. Can you tell us about starting the Girl Scout troop and why it was important for you to create something like this for generations to come?
Well, they didn't have a troop for Black girls. So a couple mothers and I got the training, and the church around the corner from our house, he said, you can use our basement
For meetings.
for the Girl Scouts. And the Boy Scouts, we had enough for 2 troops, you know, and we had Boy Scouts too. And even some of the businesses I've had, the Girl Scouts, we walked to Frick Park, which was in another neighborhood, I had my little garbage my little cart from the shopping. And I said, get lost, just follow the chocolate, because I had the thermos and the chocolate trip, little drops all over. So to get lost, follow the chocolate. But the men that worked in an auto wrecking place, they gave us
They sponsored you. Like,
they sponsored us. And another downtown Wilkinsburg, they sold cigars and cigarettes, and they gave
look
us
at them.
oh yeah. Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
The early Girl Scout troop.
And that Mabel
Davis. A lot of the names that we recognize and faces we see, I'm still in touch with a lot of those girls to this day,
parents,
and
yeah.
the parents to this
because
day.
Mabel was the first Black
School crossing guard. That
in
lady,
Wilkinsburg,
she's the first school crossing guard.
and
What a
wound up being
legacy.
the first Black secretary for the school,
For the school
the high school.
district.
One of the elementary
For
schools.
the
I think.
school district.
Because
yes.
even when Juanita got out, and all the neighbor stores and whatnot, the cigar man gave us cigar boxes so that each kid had their own little nook to put the suspense.
The boxes that you pay for in Walmart now, we got those from all the vendors back
Yeah.
then.
And they gave us it was so generous with all the neighbor community
Businesses
stores and
stuff.
business. Yeah. And the corner store gave us always, when we went in there for cookies and something for our meetings, give us the ice cream, because he worked for the Isleys. He worked for Isleys.
You know, that comes to show you how
So-
times have changed. A box of cookies when we were selling them for 50 cents. And I think a box of Girl Scout cookies today are $5.
You know, I'm actually happy that they're not just 50 cents, because I think I'd have a whole closet full of
Isn't
Girl
that-
Scout cookies.
Oh, when you had them, she had Girl Scouts.
Yeah, we
And
did.
I forced her to be a cadet
I didn't
because
know
they didn't have a cadet troop that our kids could be in. So Juanita and 4 or 5 of her friends.
I was done with Girl Scouts by then, and I had to stay in it because she wanted to continue to have Black Girl Scouts that were cadets.
and
And
the field they were building Monroeville up, and we had they put the water lines and everything in, and we had a first meeting up there. They
Wow.
didn't even want us in there.
Yeah, Girl Scouts was
They were
That's an
prejudiced too.
old story. Yeah, they were kind
Yeah.
of prejudiced too.
Yeah,
There's
listen,
so many things that you have been trailblazers in. And I think for those that are watching, especially maybe some of our international guests, it's probably really eye-opening that you all, we're talking the 50s, we're talking the 60s, the 60s, the 70s, that there were still periods of first. You were still the first to do things, something
That's right.
as basic as Girl Scouts or being the secretary. I mean, it just goes to show you that, you know, these things are ongoing, and that how long people have really been struggling in this country just to be seen as equals. And that is also a theme that runs through Fences. One of the other themes in Fences, and we actually have a special guest that we reached out to, that we're going to show a video, is this idea of this pursuit of dreams. And when I listen to you all talk, you all created an American dream that was yours. You all made these communities special. You so vibrant with roller skating and Thomas Lounge and so much pride. And that really is what the American dream is. And so in Fences, there's so many characters that are pursuing dreams. Some of them have broken dreams. Some of them have had to change them because of the circumstances. And so we talked to another grandmother, Ruby Hughley, who moved to Pittsburgh at the age of 18 from Alabama, and she's now 93. And we asked her about what dreams she had for herself during that time. And here is what she had to say. We're going to cue that video up so we can hear from Ms. Ruby Hughley.
Ooh. My name is Ruby Ellis Hughley, and I'm from Davidson, Alabama. I am 93 years old. In 1948, I moved to the Pittsburgh area. Well, I had dreams. I was a dreamer. I mean, real dreams. And in the dream, I would see, it was like God was telling me, get from among your kindred. And that's what I did. I married my husband and I came here. I married young and I moved to Pittsburgh. And I was on my own, well, with him, but I was on my own. A lot of them took me under their wings and I felt right at home. I used to dream of that. And they would tell me, in the dream, get her from among your kindreds. And that's when I moved. Well, my mother always thought I could do whatever. She had a lot of confidence in me. She thought I'd make the right decisions, and she didn't worry about me. Because she used to confide in me, basically, with most everything.
That's
she
wonderful.
thought I could handle it. I did. Oh, when I wanted to be a musician, because I love to sing. That's what I really wanted to be. But then I married young, and that ended that. Started a family right away. That ended that. But that was my dream all through life.
Oh, isn't that something? Can you imagine moving
Precious.
at 18 to a new city with no family, just you
Nobody.
and your husband, you know?
Wow, that is a real migration for sure.
So with that, I want to ask you all, what dreams did you have for yourselves growing up?
Well, I always thought it was hard to get into college, and it really was. In 12th grade, they were taking kids all over, but the Black kids, they took them to restaurants and showed them, you know, how they clean tables and all. And after I saw that, and I said, I don't want to go with anyone. Don't get a bus because they
No
want
more
to.
field trips for
Yeah,
that,
I said,
right?
no, don't get a bus for me because I will not go there. And even the
What-
advisor, she wouldn't give you information. And we learned by the grapevine that they were having a meeting for 12th graders through the grapevine. And we spread the news. And weren't they surprised when all the Black kids showed up?
Yeah, college dreams. That's really something. It's tender to my heart because I think that my mother and my father, they've lived the college dream through my brother and I and their grandchildren. You know, I had the opportunity to go on to college, and I really valued that education because I knew my mother being at home and taking care of us, and my father working as hard as he could, that gave me the opportunity to go to Clarion University. And at that time, there were a lot of kids that were either staying home and getting married or venturing off and going to college. And that's the best experience I ever had, being able to go to Clarion, because I've met lifelong friends and they're from all over the place. And
Likewise,
a
your brother.
younger generation, you have more of an opportunity to stay connected with email and Instagram, what have you. But my brother was able to go to Carnegie Mellon University. And then when we look at our children, I had two daughters. I have one daughter that's a teacher at Purdue and another daughter that is a genetic counselor. And then my brother's kids were able to go to
Princeton.
No, they went to Dartmouth and Harvard and Stanford. So I think as parents, my dad and my mom's legacy for the dreams of college have really evolved. And the one thing I know that they would say, and my grandmothers would say, would be, it was all by God's grace and blessing. Don't you think? You always say that.
Right.
Yeah, my dad and my mom have always said that.
And so don't say I can't do it. And we never say, oh no, you don't have excuse. And I've had young people in our own family. Tamia, she went to college because, we said her parents were dead and she was an excellent student. So if the families jump in
With
and help,
faith and God's grace,
yes,
people make it. And we came from humble means, and we came from, a city in Pittsburgh where my paternal grandmother, she was a widow with children, and her children ended up doing really well.
your father's.
My father's siblings, they ended up venturing into New York, Corningware factory. Everyone has a little piece of Corningware in their cupboard. So we have family in Corning, and my aunt, she went to Tuskegee University. When they're, talking about dreams and hope and talking about faithful people, that's what got them there. So that's the message I'd like to make sure that people have. You have to keep your faith and family, and you can go anywhere. Nothing it's limitless.
I love that. And we've got one more clip that we would like to put up of Ruby. And it really echoes a lot of what you said. And those of you that are watching, thank you. We have such an amazing audience. So I just want to say hello to everyone tuning in and thank you. We're just going to put this video up of Ruby to hear about what Ruby has to say about her dreams for her grandchildren and future generations.
Absolutely.
I was determined that when I finished high school, I didn't go to college. I wanted to, but I wasn't able to go. And I was determined that they were going to get what I didn't get. And all five of them did. My one daughter went to business school, but the rest of them finished college. I have 7 greats and 8 grands. And most of the ones that are older now, they finished college too and went on to get their master's. And then I have one granddaughter that's an attorney. I'm proud of all of them. I want them to go to school and learn all that they can learn, get all the wisdom they can get, but get understanding with that wisdom though. As long as it's good, everything good. And put that trust in God, one thing. Put him first. But get all that they can get and be good and help to change this world a little bit. We need a change now. Because I wrote a letter to the editor in our local paper about a change. They published it. So I'm proud of what little bit I've done. The world was in such a mess, turmoil, and I was just thinking about what can we all do to change. And the thought came to me to write a letter to the editor and maybe I could reach somebody and hoped that they would change. And I wrote it, and they published it.
That is awesome. And Miss Ruby, if you're watching, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that it really just echoes so much of the African-American experience, that so much of our legacy here is about dreams and fulfilling those dreams through generations. And that is something that I think is really a powerful theme in Fences. And so we're almost wrapping up. But I have a couple of questions, just a couple more questions for those of you out there watching. Thank you for staying with us. I just want to ask you, what is your dream? What are your dreams for future generations? What is your dream for your grandkids and future generations?
Well, nothing is more important, because you can get help from your families. The families know it. And don't say, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Don't say never. Reach out, because we've had relatives who said, like they had the college tours. Oh, I can't go. What do you mean you can't go? So we can see to it that you get there. And the opportunity is there. Don't bypass it thinking, I'll never get there. Yes, you will. And times were hard when I was coming up. They're harder now for these children. And there's people out there who want everything to go back the way it used to be. There are no back roads. There's no back roads. You have to work for it. And you got a lot of people out here, stretch out a hand and grab a hand. Not clams in the basket, climb all over each other.
Take someone with you. Right.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah, take a hand and lift somebody else up. Don't listen, go and get out there and vote and listen to what they're saying. Don't pay too much attention to what they're saying. What have they done? And step on that. It's dangerous. Our democracy is in danger right now. Young people will get us out.
They're the future. Yes.
That's right.
That is it right there. And I think that for those of you watching that are planning on seeing Fences, that's also one of the themes, because through Corey represents that dreamer, right? The young people have always been those people to carry us forward. You all have done that. I just want to thank you for that. At this time, if there's anybody, we have a couple of questions, Q&A. I know we're at our time, but let's all hang tight. We've got a question here from Thomas Brazil. That's my dad. Hi, Dad.
Thomas.
The legendary composer Billy Strayhorn was from Pittsburgh. And were there any local role models that you had growing up?
I had a good girlfriend in Wilkinsburg. Her sister was married to a Strayhorn. Wow. So it's, it was, she died early from cancer, and we didn't have chance to get in touch with him. But see how the circle goes?
We lived on Francis Street, and my cousin just brought it to my attention that Lena Horne used to live on Francis Street.
Because they couldn't go downtown to the hotels and and that Crawford Grill.
Crawford Grill.
Yeah, with Franco Harris.
Franco Harris, he had hoped to revitalize the Crawford's Grill.
All the notables, Black, always came to Crawford Grill.
Big acts used to come through there.
So much history.
Franco Harris has got his statue down there. It's where?
It's in the airport.
Yes.
It's in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So much history. Y'all, this has been amazing. I just have one final question. And if there are no other questions from the audience, and if you all do have questions, put them in the Q&A. We do have a comment in the chat. So much history. What amazing women. Dominique Bozen wanted to share that with you all. And I agree. You all are truly amazing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Just one more question. If you had to describe Pittsburgh in one word, what would it be?
It's grand now, and it's when I grew up, the doors are open. Just knock on them.
One word for me would be promising.
Yes.
Promising. Dreams come true.
Fantastic. Ladies, this has been amazing. Ms. Hannon and Ms. Hamlin, thank you so much. I just want to thank you all for an amazing interview.
Thank
you for having us. It's been
taking so much valuable time to hear me tell my stories.
Oh, it was precious time. And you know, I want to give a special thanks to Ruby Ellis Hughley for your guest appearance. I want to thank Diane Hughley and Tyra Hughley Smith for your help. Thank you to Dominique Bozeman, Cassandra Brazil, and Paris Nesbitt for your continued support of this project, this labor of love. Of course, I have to thank Cecily Stovall of Stage a Change, as well as the entire Sydney Theater Company team for this partnership. I really, truly hope that the stories shared this evening will enrich your production as you make history with the first production of Fences to be performed in Australia. Be sure to check out that production if you're in Sydney, playing at the Wharf Theatre in Sydney now through May 6th, Chukas, as they say in Sydney. I want to thank our engineer, Tori Parham, for handling all of our technical aspects of tonight's show. Many of you have asked how you can support the Grandmother Project. So right now you can subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/The Grandmother Project. You can follow us on Instagram at The Grandmother Project, and you can stay tuned for more ways of how to support our work in celebrating Black grandmothers. Ms. Hannon and Ms. Hamlin, thank you so much for a wonderful evening. This has been so enriching and promising. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We thank you.
Yes, you all stay tuned for special ways. Oh, we've got one question before we head out. Oh, we've got comments. My family, so beautiful. Love you both. That's from Chantel.
Our Minnesota cousin.
Shout out to cousins. We got awesome job, Mom and Dee Dee. And Lynn Hornswell says, thank you for your poignancy and candor. Love you so much and so proud of my girls.
That's my Clarion friend. Happy birthday, Lenny.
Yay. And for all of you that tuned in from Sydney, thank you. We hope you enjoyed this this presentation. Oh, wait, let me see. Let me make sure. Thank you. It looks like we've got some hands raised. Let me make sure. Oh, and again, another compliment. Great job, Aunt Gloria and Cuz. So thank you so much. Everybody stay tuned for how you can support the Grandmother Project, and we will see you next month for another episode of Pearls and Pocketbooks.
We'll be there. Love you.
Stay tuned.
Supporting the Grandmother Project is easy. Simply go to www.grandmotherprojectseries.com and click Donate. You'll be directed to our PayPal page, where you can enter an amount to help support the creation of new episodes and content. Be sure to like and subscribe to our page on YouTube and follow us on social media. See you next month on the next Pearls and Pocketbooks.
Pearls and Pocketbooks.